Well, hello there, my friends. What's up, my friends? What's up, my friends? What's up, my friends? How's everybody doing today? Saturday, for what it's worth. Not that that matters at all, but it's a beautiful day. Just thought I'd start out with that. Today we're going to talk about letting go. It's not a pretentious, monk in a robe type Buddhist video, but actually somebody did ask the other day. They said, oh, would you do a video about Buddhism and your thoughts on it? I said, it's really funny you say that because I actually just finished writing some notes, taking notes. Usually when I take notes, it's like a mental notes. I write them down and I start thinking, what do I want to talk about? But in this case, it was letting go and Wu-Wei, which is kind of a Zen term or a Taoist term. The reason I don't talk about Buddhism or Zen or Taoism is because putting words on it is all pretentious. And anybody who's studied these knows that it's pretty much a speechless or vocalless practice. And it's an art of non-doing, which creates the doing. And I can't begin to explain that because it's something that you have to experience. But it took a long time for me to really get a grasp on that. And once I did, it changed my life. I mean, I listened to a lot of Alan Watts, which is kind of surface Zen, if you will, but that's what Zen is. And a lot of people call Alan Watts, just some pretentious, arrogant American that knew nothing about Buddhism. Absolutely not. He knew a lot. He knew enough to apply those values to Western lives. And that, to me, gave me a sense of calm and well-being. How can that be a bad thing, right? Without giving up or walking away from society. So, in other words, it's not about abandoning or leaving, or letting go as in just saying society doesn't matter, but becoming an integral member and a spoke within that wheel, willingly and enjoying it, finding your place. And a lot of people are so stubborn, they would say, I have no part in this society, and I'm one of them, in a way, but it doesn't mean that I won't have a part in my communities, if that makes sense. So, in the Tao, Wu-Wei, the term Wu-Wei, W-U-W-E-I, means it's a non-doing. And it's really, like I said, it's kind of hard to understand. I'm still grasping this, but when you're not doing, things come to you. And it's not an art of not taking action, but rather it's an art of just letting things fall into place as they do. And a lot of people are so afraid to lose control of their lives that there was no way in hell that they would possibly just leave their lives up to chance. They go to school, they get a specific job, they know what they want. And that's great, if that works for you. But flowing like the river can be a very valuable skill. So, first off, society always tells us what is good and bad. Letting go of those is the first step, I believe, to finding yourself, if you will. And as cheesy as that sounds, good and bad or good and evil are completely constructs of man. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't things that we agree on that are good and bad. In other words, it's obvious that walking up to someone and murdering their child is not a good thing, right? And we could get into those technicalities and those, details, but it doesn't really explain the bigger picture because we don't understand the bigger picture. So, besides I guess what it comes down to is it's not good or bad as long as it hurts no one else or yourself. You see what I mean? But even if it's something bad that hurts you, say you have an addiction that harms you, is that a bad thing? It could be a good thing if it changes your life and makes you want to take a whole new approach to life. And by drawing on the power of that failure, you can be a better person. If society can look back on the bad things that have happened, wars, pestilence, then we can say, whoa, we don't want that to happen again, and we can improve the way we do things so we don't have those problems again. So, if you don't see the silver lining in every negative situation, you're missing something, and that's something that I've learned is super fucking important. So man always, as I said, tells us what's good and evil, and not the natural order of things. The natural order is really hard for us to see, because we're stuck in this human body. This is the only mind we know. Regardless of whether we come from somewhere or go somewhere, here we are. And because of this, we find little things in our lives that we think are good and bad. And then we virtue signal. We tell people, oh, I don't eat meat because, it's bad to the animals. Or, oh, I don't do drugs because it's harmful to the mind. It's fine if you have your own opinions. But when you use that as virtue signaling to show yourself as superior, what you're doing is you're narcissistic, you're arrogant, you're using that as a way to look better than other people, to boost yourself up by comparing yourself to other people. And not comparing ourselves to others is such a rewarding experience. I know people who are shitty that I've known in my life, that I've met. I can even still get along with them. It's not a matter of trying to prove I'm better, because I'm losing out if I'm just ignoring people and moving into the future without, giving any care to other people's feelings and thoughts, because I do care about other people's thoughts. But letting go of your control is like flowing with the wind or the river, and I don't want to get into the metaphors of flowing down the stream and getting stuck in eddies and grabbing onto a raft and things like that, but it really does make sense when you kind of anthropomorphize everything. You put it into a situation we can understand as humans. I wanted to say letting go of control does not mean that wealth or profit or success is useless. I think that that's one of the misconceptions that people have, is they think, well, if you let go, you just don't care about anything. Not true at all. You start to care about the things that really matter, to you anyway. And you don't have to prove that to anyone else. The things that make you happy. If you can get happy sitting out by in your backyard every day or at a park, and people tell you, oh, how could that make you happy? You might decide, oh, maybe that doesn't make me happy. It's really important that we take what we can get and not let other people bring us down. There's always somebody looking at us smiling and saying, you should be frowning. You know what I mean? It's important to be aware of that. So it doesn't mean wealth is useless, and it doesn't mean that we give up or we're lazy. It means that we take a different approach to life. And the path of least resistance, people often think of that as something that's just the easy way out. But no, it's not. It's the path that's set before you. And it doesn't mean that you don't take chances or jump hurdles at all. It just means that you're balanced in your approach. That you're not yearning to become a fucking multi-billionaire when you know it's not likely, or you're not content to be completely poor and broke for the rest of your life because you feel like you can't do anything. It really is about that balance. It's a balance of action and awareness. But inaction is almost just as important, if that makes sense. I heard a quote the other day that the tallest trees catch the most wind. It's some old Zen quote, but it's so true. If you stand up taller and you want to be recognized and you want to be famous, you want to be rich, you're going to catch the most wind and the most heartache. And that's the way the world works. So being modest and hanging back can be very beneficial, but it's also kind of a cheap way out, an easy way out for people who don't want to put themselves in the limelight. For example, me, I could just sit here and talk about birds on YouTube all the time, and I wouldn't get any conflict whatsoever. But if I talk about politics or anything else, it's not like I want to, but I feel like I need to. And you're going to catch the most wind when you stand out and you start talking about things like that. It's not my favorite subjects, but it's something I feel in my heart I have to talk about. And regardless of how we proceed, we remember amor fati, which is it's embrace the outcome, basically. Amor fati. Fati would be like fate, and amor is love, right? Amor. So love the outcome or embrace the outcome. And it's because it's all you can do. The outcome is what you have. You're not going to change. An outcome is an outcome. It does not change. So you have to embrace it and accept it. We so often as humans confuse wants and needs. We think we want something. We think we want something, or we think we need something rather, but really it's just a want. Sometimes it is a need. Basic food, water, shelter, of course, but companionship, love, understanding, community, it's something people overlook. They think that if they're living in their own apartment and they've got their food and they've got a job, then they're good to go. But it's never enough for people. You need relationships. We really do. And when people don't have good relationships, they turn into fucking assholes. I hate to put it that way, but it's true. There's so many people out there who are just scathing and hateful just because. I've met so many of them on my channel. People who only comment when it's a conflicting thing with what they believe, and then they leave some ad hominem attack on me. And it's, it feels shitty to be attacked for no reason. But then you think, well, this person must be miserable. They've got their own problems if that's their response, and you move on with it. But some people don't move on with it. They hang on to these things. So you embrace the outcome, and self-honesty really means helping the others and the self. It's another virtue signal to say, oh, I donate and I help other people all the time. You've got to help yourself too. You have to be in your own temple, somewhat, in order to be able to help others, if that makes sense. Where do I go next? We have judgment, anger, resentment, and guilt that builds up in us. You've got to let it go. You've got to process it and move on. And all I'm going to say about this is that anger is a very important emotion. If you don't feel any anger, then where are you? Where's your heart? But if you're just trying to hide your anger because you don't want to feel weak, because society tells you shouldn't get mad about things, no, that's bullshit. If you feel angry about something, if you really feel something is wrong, you need to speak out about it. You need to tell people how you feel. And others might not agree with you, and that's fine. You process it and move on. Somebody can say something, whether it's in a comment or a text or an actual conversation, face-to-face or otherwise, and you get a little frustrated with them. It happens all the time. All you got to do is process it and move on. And very rarely do I hang on to anything for more than 20 minutes, right? While I go through it in my head and I think, okay, well, this person's, they've got their own problems, okay. Or, another important angle is that sometimes I realize I was a dick. And I'm willing to admit that. Not very often, though. Can't admit too many failures. No, everybody makes mistakes, but I make a big effort to not be that guy. So you process your anger and you move on. And like I said, the wind keeps flowing whether or not you hide behind a tree or not. You can build a shelter to escape the wind or the current, but you can't hide forever. You got to go back out and eat. So when we try to hide ourselves away from the conflict in the world, all we're doing really is a temporary reprieve, and then we have to come back out and express ourselves. It's important with people that instead of being meek and not saying what we feel, that we say what we feel, we stand by it, and you'll feel a lot stronger within yourself when you set boundaries. You know what I mean? So I've said this probably a million times, but the way I deal with problems in life, whether it be political or conspiracies or environmental or otherwise, is to remember that we have a circle of control and a circle of influence. The circle of control is you can't do anything about it, or it's out of your control. What is it? Yeah. Circle of influence, anyways, is the things that you can do something about. And what I've noticed is in society, most people who are angry about the world, they don't get angry about things they can do things about, like local efforts, fixing things in their own neighborhood. They want to point to the sky and talk about chemtrails, or point to the government, talk about deep state bullshit, because it's something they know. They never actually have to take action on. That they can just sit behind their computer and type away and agree with people without any evidence or having to confirm anything, or take action. And fine, if that's what works for you, but I'd prefer to stick to the circle of influence, things we can actually change. I think one of the keys is that a lot of people want to know what's going on. And there is strength in not knowing and admitting you don't know. If you think you know everything, then you're not willing to change your opinions. Like this whole COVID thing has got me through so many different fucking mind fucks about this. One day I'm like, oh, gotta follow these regulations. The next day I'm like, this is ridiculous. Then I'm like, And finally I've come to my own conclusions about it. Of course, use your own head. But before you have all the right information to make an assessment, you can't make a proper assessment. A lot of people just jump the gun. They want to think they know everything. They know everything right away. It's just like the people when one event happens and instantly YouTube's just full of people saying, oh, this was all a false flag, it was all set up. As if within an hour you guys can gather all this information and prove that it's some hoax, right? It's bullshit. And it's a way for people to feel like they're in control of the world, which is not in control. So there is strength in not knowing. And one important factor is to not try and change others. So many people want to change other people. Whether it's a husband or a wife or a kid or a parent or anyone else. I always make my opinions known to other people. If they don't agree, then tough shit. But I don't try to change people. I give them the ammunition and the information that I have and say, you can do whatever you want with it. I don't care what you believe because I don't live in your mind. I live in my mind. So whatever anger you have for 5 minutes about my opinions doesn't matter because I go back to my life and you have to go back to yours. So you shouldn't try to change others, but even more importantly, you should never fear changing yourself. It's not weakness to change your opinion, especially when you gain new information. And I feel like right now so many people are afraid to change their opinions. They are turning this whole thing political that's going on in the world because they feel like they have to stick with their side instead of using their heads and living their own lives, right? Kind of frustrating, but I guess to finalize, just say that opposites do attract, and it's important that we grow together as a community and that we choose our friends wisely. It's hard to let go of people in your life that maybe you don't interact with well anymore. And I'm not saying people you disagree with at all. I have a friend who's completely opposite of me. He watches Fox News, totally different type of person. But we're good friends, and we have been for 20, 30 years. And it's not, I can get over people's opinions if they're good people when it comes to like politics or whatnot, because politics don't really matter that much when you get into people's hearts. And that's really the important thing. We think that anybody who feels this way is heartless, or anyone who feels this way is ignorant, when really people are just fucking people. And it's time for us to get over ourselves, you know? It's, you just got to find balance within everything. You can call it yin-yang, whatever you want. Others will always try to sway you from how you should feel and tell you what you should feel. Don't believe it. Don't buy it. And if you are going to listen to other people to find your way, at least take note of their mentalities, their attitudes, and their behaviors. If you have a complete asshole telling you all these things, do you want to be like them? It's up to you, you know? Each person chooses for themselves. It's just something I've observed. Because a lot of people want to be angry. They want to go online and attack other people. They want to go on YouTube and Google certain keywords every morning so they can look for false flags or conspiracies or something that's wrong with the world. Instead of listening to some good music or finding something positive. And if that's the world you immerse yourself in, you're going to be miserable. Or as South Park said, you're going to have a bad time. So, that's all I got. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to y'all later. Be well, and all that shit. I'll talk to you soon.